Hey Applehead, it's Kim Loves MJ because Kim loves MJ. Welcome back to another video. As you guys know, Thriller 40 came out, and guess what? I watched it twice. Once by myself and once with my mom, and I loved it. So I loved the editing. I thought the editing was great. I loved how they had so much footage of Michael. But let's not get into it. Let's just hold off for a second. I love how they use 4K footage. I thought the information that they showed was great. And I have a feeling that this documentary was more so for people who aren't necessarily fans of Michael, but I'm sure that they've, heard the album, or at the very least they've heard the big three: Thriller, Beat It, Billie Jean. But they just want to get to know the process with the album more. I think that was who the target audience was for the documentary. So I think that's why some fans aren't like too enthusiastic about it. But for the most part, I think it was great. And I think that it presented enough information in order to really show how big Thriller was, and is, For example, the racial issues that went on during that time, and pretty much how big it was, the process of how it was made, etc. Like, it went through a lot of info. So I think it was just great. But just because I loved it does not mean that I don't have any critiques about it, okay? So here are my critiques. Number one, this one is like an undeniable critique that it's just like, why you missed the mark on this one. Why didn't they talk about the lady in my life? Since I watched it twice, and also I had gone on Twitter and I saw that there were other people talking about this, I noticed that they didn't talk about Lady in My Life. They mentioned it at one point briefly, when talking about the track list, but they didn't really go into detail. And I really wish they would have, because a story that I felt like would have worked so great would have been talking about Michael begging. I don't know if you guys remember, but the one where Quincy said, "I want you to beg" on this song, and Michael was like, "I'm too shy to do that." But he still did it anyway. He just had to turn down the lights and close the curtains, and he was begging basically. So I feel that that would have worked in the sense that it would have showed Michael's willingness to push himself, not necessarily push boundaries and things like that. That is amazing, that is great, and I'm glad that they talked about it, because that is so vital. But also more personal, interpersonal things, like his willingness to push himself and to cross his own boundaries and things like that. I feel like that would have been a great story to tell in the documentary had they talked about the Lady in My Life. Also, because that song is beautiful. That is a beautiful song. Listen to the song. Stream it right now for me, please, after this video. But yeah, it's such a beautiful song. I feel like they could have talked about it, and that would have been a great story to tell. I would have loved to hear about that part, maybe even play an a cappella version of that part. Oh, also another critique that I have is why do they use fan-made 4K resolutions? What the hell was that? Anyway, but for the most part, I think that this documentary was great. I know I just went into critiques, but here's the thing: you can't have light without dark, okay? I loved it. I think it was great, and here's the thing: my favorite aspect of the documentary, the footage. Let's talk about it. Michael, looks so adorable. Excuse me? I wanted to give him a hug every time he showed up on screen. I'm not kidding. And the fact that they put it in 4K, are you kidding me? Where was this? And how did you get this technology? Excuse me, where were you hiding this? So adorable. Look. Oh my gosh. I love the footage. One of my favorites is when he's sitting at the desk, and he has got that Mickey Mouse thing. Somebody on Twitter had said, I just know that he said, you have to get it from this angle so that the Mickey Mouse is showing. Overall, I really liked it. Really wish they would just release all of the footage. I think they should. I really think they should, because we deserve it. I'm walking sex, pedal those of you who are not able to see it, pretty much is exactly the way that I was talking about how I thought it was going to be during my Thriller 40 trailer reaction, where pretty much is going to be people who were interviewed who were there at the time, who were pretty much going to talk about how the album was made, and when people talking about how they were inspired, and then they were going to show footage of Michael. That was pretty much it. Pretty sure you can find the footage of Michael online. If you're like a big fan of Michael and you already know this thing back to back, you may not really need to watch the documentary. It may not be for you, but I will say that I do recommend it for people that want to get to know Michael a little more, specifically about that part of his life. Yeah, that era, because they also went into things like the Victory Tour, which Joseph, why did you make him go on tour instead of having his own Thriller? He should have done a Thriller show, seriously. We were robbed, guys. Anyways, we also talked about the whole Pepsi burn thing, and they went over it briefly, talking about, you know, the pain medication and stuff like that. I'm glad they didn't go too much into it, because here's the thing, it could easily go into a pipeline of like the tabloid speculation type stuff, you know what I mean? It could have easily went into that pipeline. So I'm glad that as soon as they were done making their point, they just went right back into talking about the stuff. But and also I like that they gave a little bit of insight about how Michael was feeling at the time, how he was feeling about wanting to be his own person, and how he basically had dreams and goals that he had. I love the audio where he was talking about how he looked at himself in the mirror, spoiler by the way, and he was telling himself over and over, biggest selling album of all time, biggest selling album of all time, you know what I mean, over and over and over and over again, as an affirmation to himself. You know, there were a couple things that you could learn, but I think for the most part this definitely was meant more for people who are in the general public. So oh yeah, one critique that I have also, where was Miles Frost? You guys promised me Miles Frost. Where was Miles Frost? At the end of, like, towards the credits, he's shown like this little segment right here. Like he's shown, but I thought that he was gonna do an interview, bruh. I was so excited. Why did they call This Is It a concert film? Like, okay, if any of you guys have been on social media, especially Twitter and things like that, the Swifties have been all like, we beat you guys, we beat you, because Taylor Swift's concert film thingy surpassed This Is It, haha. And then like Taj had to come in being all like, first of all, This Is It is not a concert film, it's a documentary film. And then like, how annoying is it that they just, at the end of the Thriller documentary, I don't know. So I'm not enthusiastic about that. But that footage. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe for more. Please comment down below, did you watch the documentary? And if so, did you like it? Did you not like it? What were some things you liked? What were some things you didn't? Thank you so much for watching. Keep on walking, Applehead. Bye-bye.
Stop kissing the monster.